There was a complaint, a real one, a patient and a family member who had been spoken to in such a way that left them feeling small and dismissed in one of the most vulnerable moments of their lives. They wrote it down, they submitted it, and it went to the leader of our team. And then nothing happened. Not nothing as in it was reviewed and handled quietly. Nothing as in the leader looked at it, looked at the staff member who caused it, and decided that having that conversation was going to be harder than not having it. So he chose not to have it. The rest of us watched, and we felt every single thing you would expect a team to feel when the person at the top decides that one person's feelings matter more than a patient's dignity and a team's standards. Today, I want to talk about what that cost and what a patient-centered leader would have done instead. Hi, I'm Diane. I spent 25 years as a nurse and nurse practitioner before I became a healthcare leadership architect and a patient-centered leader. This is Roots of Change podcast, where we talk about the patterns we carry through our decisions, our leadership, our relationships, and into the way we show up for people counting on us. Sometimes the root goes back into a relationship where you slowly lost yourself. Sometimes it goes back further into childhood and the things you lived through long before anyone saw you as a leader. And the truth is, what we can see clearly is what we are able to change, and that is the work we do here together. So back to the story. I've watched this scene play out more times than I could count, but there's one version of it that I still think about. A staff member on our team had a pattern, not a one-off bad day, a pattern. The way she spoke to patients and families had just a particular quality to it. Efficient, clipped, impatient, and the kind of tone that makes a person feel like a problem to be managed rather than a human being to be cared for. And we all saw it. We talked about it quietly among ourselves, the way teams do when they know something is really wrong and nobody above them is doing anything about it. Then, a family made a formal complaint. They put it in writing. Their loved one had been spoken to in a way that left them feeling dismissed and small during one of the hardest moments of their lives. That complaint landed on our leader's desk. And then we waited. We waited for the conversation we all knew needed to happen, the one that would tell this staff member what she had done was not acceptable, that patients and families in this building deserved better, and that standard was going to be upheld regardless of how uncomfortable that conversation was going to be. It never came. The leader looked at the complaint. He looked at the staff member. He weighed up the discomfort of confronting her against the discomfort of letting it go. And he chose to let it go. So what followed was one of the most demoralizing things I've ever witnessed happen to a team. The shock came first. We genuinely could not believe that a written complaint from a patient's family had landed with no consequences whatsoever. Then came the anger because the rest of us were held to standards every single day. Our performance was reviewed, our communication was monitored, and our accountability was real. And yet one person got to exist entirely outside of that system because the leader didn't want the friction of telling her the truth. Then came the bitterness, the quiet, corrosive kind that doesn't shout. It just slowly poisons every team meeting, every shared shift, and every moment where trust should exist but really doesn't anymore. We weren't angry at the staff member. We were angry at the leader who chose his own comfort over our team's integrity and that family's dignity. Think about what this is like for a moment. Imagine you're on a sports team and you train hard every single day. You show up on time, you follow the rules of the game, you hold yourself to every standard the coach sets. Then, one player on your team breaks the rules repeatedly, and the coach just simply looks the other way every time. Not because they don't see it, but because confronting that player feels harder than just letting it slide. Pretty soon, you stop trusting the coach. Pretty soon, you stop believing that the rules actually mean anything. And pretty soon, the team stops functioning like a team because the foundation of fairness that held the team together has slowly cracked. And that is exactly what happened to us. See, here's what I want you to understand about what that leader was doing and what he was telling himself while he was doing it. He was not being kind. He was being conflict avoidant. And those two things can look identical from the outside until you see what they cost. A leader who avoids the hard conversation tells himself he's giving the person a chance, being understanding, choosing compassion over confrontation. But what he's actually doing is choosing his own comfort over the well-being of every single person on the team who's watching, and also over the dignity of every patient who will encounter that staff member again another day. So think of it like a cracked beam in a building. You can see it. The engineers can see it. Everyone who works in that building walks past it every day. And the building manager decides that fixing it's going to be expensive and disruptive and uncomfortable, so he tapes it over and hopes for the best. The beam does not get stronger because nobody mentioned it. It gets weaker, and everything else, everything the building is supposed to hold up, becomes less safe every day, every single day that the conversation doesn't happen. A people-pleasing leader is not protecting the team. He's protecting himself. And the people who pay the price are the ones who show up and do their work with integrity and deserved a leader who would do the same. So what does this mean? Here's the superpower that every clinician who became a leader already has, and most of them have stopped using. You already know how to deliver hard news with care. You've done it hundreds of times. You've sat with a patient and told them something they did not want to hear, and you did it with honesty and with dignity and with enough humanity that the relationship survived it. You've held a family's grief while also telling them the truth. You've had the conversation nobody wanted to have because the patient needed you to have it. That is not a soft skill. That is one of the most sophisticated human skills that exists, and it lives inside of you because clinical practice built it in you. It built it in you over many years. A patient-centered leader does not avoid hard conversations. She brings everything that clinical practice taught her into the room with her. She can be honest and caring at the same time. She can hold someone accountable without abandoning them. She can tell a staff member that their behavior towards a patient was not acceptable and do it in a way that leaves the door open for that person to grow. That is what being liked cannot buy. And that is what patient-centered leadership actually looks like when it's working. Being liked is easy. Being safe to work for is harder. And remember this, your team knows the difference every single day. So if this episode landed somewhere real for you today, I would love for you to come deeper into this work with me. My book, Rooted to Rise, Rise of the Patient-Centered Leader, walks through exactly this kind of pattern, where it comes from, what it costs, and what patient-centered leadership looks like when it's actually being lived. This book is now available for pre-sale, and you can secure your copy at dianegudmundson.com/RTR book. And if you're ready to understand your own patterns more clearly, the identity and life purpose reading is the fastest way that I know to do that. It's only 45 minutes, one conversation, and the language for things you've been living without being able to name. I will put the details for you in the show notes, wherever you're listening or watching. And I want to thank you for being here with me today, and I will see you on the next episode.